So there's a variety of colors to stain and things, and then you have a piece stained, and now what would you do? You need to seal it in some way. So we have a choice of waxes, oils, or shellacs, and they have a variety of uses. Waxes are going to be your least water resistant, heat resistant, alcohol resistant. Oils are your most resistant, and I'm talking traditional hand finish. Polyurethane by far is your hardest finish. It's a polymer. It was created in 1960. You know, and it's sprayed on, and it's ideal for floors and certain things. But if you have fine furniture at home, you may want to think twice about using a polyurethane. Lacquers are really excellent. They're catalyzing lacquers, conversion lacquers, nitrocellulose lacquers. Most of them are sprayable, and it's a modern answer to shellac. And we'll talk about shellac in a minute, and that's on your list. So let's say you have the color that you like. Now, what are your options? You can go with a variety of waxes, and in particular, I'll talk a little bit about waxes because it's so important. You have a choice of colors. Dry wax comes in, I think, 6 colors. There's butcher's wax, there's Renaissance wax. I think you know most of those names. In the scheme, I don't want to pass this around to see the colors. In the scheme of waxes, the Cadillac of waxes is Renaissance wax. If you've seen it or heard of it, it's in a little gray can. It's about $30. It was designed for museum curators. It's microcrystalline material. And everyone is very secretive about their wax composition, so you will never see ingredients on can. And it's very frustrating. That is the extreme. So unless you have a really amazing project, you may not want to go that far. About $30 for a small can. And it's not that readily available. I've only seen it in a few stores, actually. Then, down on the scheme of things, I would consider liberal in second. We can talk about it in a minute. Then is dry wax, which everyone knows, and maybe you guys use. And what is the difference? And when would you use dry wax as opposed to another wax? Dry wax is beeswax with toluene. Toluene is a dangerous solvent. What you need to look for on a can is, if we could talk about toxicity in your shop or while you're working, there is a little flame on the back of this can. That just means flammable. It's dangerous in and of itself, and your rags may start to bust. But what you need to look for, which we don't have on any of these, is a little skull and crossbones, and that will be on many products. When you see that, you need to be really careful. Protect yourself, your face, and your hands. And they're mostly very bad to breathe in, and then you also have to think about how you clean up and the environment, and these things get into the water system. And we are under all kinds of regulations through California. VOCs, you'll see that on your cans, volatile organic chemicals. Dry wax is a brand name. Right, BRI, WAX, it's in a white can. It's very prominent. They advertise quite a bit. It's also an English company. These products are all from England, and the finer finishing products do most of them from Europe. So toluene is the solvent. The solvent here is mineral spirits, and actually a low count of mineral spirits. I can still smell this, but what I hear from everyone, especially at your show last April, was the smell is very pleasing. So that's kind of important to keep in mind. I smell waxes now wherever I go. And I'm surprised at the smell of milings and different things. So you have Renaissance wax. Liberon is a paraffin base with microcrystalline and carnauba. Have you guys heard the word carnauba? What is it? So it's a byproduct from the leaf of a Brazilian palm tree. And it's natural product, and what carnauba gives wax is hardness and shine. So it allows you to buff up to a sheen. This is an example, again, of walnut raw and walnut wax. And so pass that around. I want you to feel how thin that is and the sheen of it. And that's how your finish should be. So we have paraffin, microcrystalline, carnauba. Then it is pigmented with a variety of colors on the sheet or around with herb pigments. Then we have something like dry wax, which is beeswax. So what is the difference between beeswax and paraffin? Beeswax is ideal for pine in particular, and for very dry woods, reclaimed timbers. I would do the beams in this room with dry wax. This is exactly the use. I would not put dry wax on my kitchen table, and I was surprised at the woodworking show. They had a booth and they had this beautiful pine table, and they had all this wax on it, and you could feel it with your fingers. You could make fingerprints. It was so sticky and clammy and just too thick, and not necessary for a basic piece of furniture. So you may want to think about what, again, your end use is, and I do feel that maybe they applied that too quickly. Then there's butcher's wax, which everyone knows, and that has a lot of carnauba in it, and that was designed to finish bowling alleys and really some extreme traffic. And to put butcher's wax on whatever piece you just created also would kind of ruin your work. It's going to be too hard, and the higher percentage of carnauba, the much harder it is to buff. And in general, you'll put on too much because everyone does, and then it's just so hard to buff, and you'll get white spots and you get a little hazy. So you have a variety of waxes. It's confusing because no one has ingredients and you don't know what you're looking for, but if I've gone through that too fast, just stop me and ask a question. But I'd like you to see what it looks like when applied, and I welcome you to come up later and apply some and feel it. And for the people that bought this at the show and haven't used it yet, I want you to use it by next month and try it. So the trick to applying wax is steel wool. And there are many grades of steel wool. They start, the higher the number, the coarser it is. So 4 is very coarse, 3, 2, 1, then it starts in the 0 series. And it's usually called aught, so 3/0, 4/0. There is a 5/0 in this country. It is actually not as fine as this. This is a little around 4/0, and it is absolutely unique. And next month, in Fine Woodworking Magazine, they're doing an article on steel wool, and they're saying that this is the best they've ever seen. And so what you're looking for in steel wool is something that is oil-free, something that won't crumble, so you won't get shards all over your work. And what this particular one has, and you're welcome to kind of pull that apart, are the longest continuous fibers that they've ever seen, and these are the editors of Fine Woodworking. So what this means is, if this particular grade, or hull, is fine enough that it will not scratch any of your wood, even if I had a fine shellac finish, if I was working on raw wood. So in particular, the 4/0 is the best for applying wax, and the reason being, you get a very thin application. You can control it, and the steel wool allows for the granule to open and the wax really penetrates, and that's what's most important. If you're applying wax with a cloth, it is sitting on your surface, and it's very easy to not have it be applied evenly. And then at that point, it will show when you buff it, or it will buff well. So the steel wool is the trick and the key and everything. This is an example of mahogany and mahogany wax. And this is an example of just a piece of walnut where we try to change the color of it. This is a Tudor oak, and this is a maple. The names are on the side. So, depending on what piece of furniture I have in my home, I may need to discolor and change the color here. So what you do is you make a little pad of your steel wool, and you're going to apply it. I'm going to apply it first on some raw wood, and then we're going to put on some shellac, and I'll do some there so you can see the difference. This color here we have is a dark oak. I keep a little pad in here. This is expensive, so you want to make it last. But it is just going to make the difference in your finishing. So this is really so strongly recommended. Take a bit. I just have a raw piece of wood. Now this is just a piece of pine, so this is an example of how I can change some colors. If you guys can see this. Now what I'm doing in this case, always go with the grain, and I'm pulling up. I'm pulling and really kind of pushing it in. I mean, I can hear the little scratching. And so now I've actually stained the wood and waxed it, so now it's actually sealed. So I can save a step. I did not have to use stain medium oak stain. I could just go through with colored wax. So it's up to you. If I use the medium oak stain, I can just enhance this color. So in a minute, we can stain this, for instance, and you can compare the difference. What you do is you apply, you pull up as much as you can so that it's as thin as possible and consistent. You let this set up about 15 minutes, possibly a half hour with humidity, and then you're going to buff. You can buff with a cotton cloth, none of these. It needs to be an old t-shirt, a cotton sheet, should be the finest cotton, lint-free, very important. So save your t-shirts. If you really want to go, deluxe, we have, you may find also a really nice furniture brush. I hear this looks like everyone's grandfather's shoe shine brush, so if you're having it at home, great. In about 10 minutes, we're going to buff this, and the pieces that are going around, we will achieve that finish.
Now, during the time you open wood like that, maple, you don't have to worry about watching it. So you do that?
No, not at all, because yeah, your steel wool is pulling it up. You're not going to. You may have problems staining with a knot or with a certain wood, and then you may want to condition part of that. But with wax, you won't have any problems. I had a piece of maple somewhere actually. So we're going to buff this in a minute. Now, this was a piece that we had stains, even though it hasn't been the proper dry time. I'm just going to show you the difference. But if we want to go up, I'm going to stay with this. I also have a mahogany wax, which is quite red. So I'll do just half of it so you can see the difference, and you can feel the difference when it's done. Wax, when you finish with wax, you should have a silky finish, and you will have a sheen. It won't be a high gloss, but it will be a sheen. So I'm going to leave this a little bit raw. So you can see it, I don't know if you guys can all see, but the color is just kind of enhanced with wax, and it really can make for rich. And also the thing is, you don't really want to hide your grain. And so everything is staying transparent, so that's what's also important. Then we have, are there any wax questions? Because wax is so important. We recommend wax for everything, finishing everything, unless I was spraying polyurethane. So for any piece of furniture, for wood paneling, for doors, wax protects your surface, your substrate, your time and your money is in the cost of your wood, and usually the cost of your finish, which would be maybe shellac or an oil. Wax will take the brunt of your damage, especially watermarks and things. It is the easiest replaceable finish and the least expensive. So if you go to the trouble of shellacking something and not applying wax, and you have a damage, a shellac repair is much harder to do and much more costly. So you always want wax as your final barrier, and it also feeds you.
How long does a wax supposed to last?
It depends on the use. If it were a kitchen table, I would re-wax once a month. If it were wood paneling, once a year. And all you're doing is you're kind of just livening your finish up, and wax feeds wood. In particular, pine and oak need wax. So what you're doing is every time you wax, you're preventing splits and cracks and discoloration. So wax is quite important for several types of wood.
You said butcher's wax was the hardest. What's a softer wax? I missed the beginning of that.
Softer wax would be, carnauba is the hardest material that wax is made out of. And then if we go softer from that, you have a paraffin base, which is people know in candles, and is just a refined byproduct. Microcrystalline is a natural composition, that's softer. And what of course softens all waxes is the solvent that's in it, which is the difference between, this is, for whoever turns here, this is a wood turning stick. This is, I'll pass this around, this is almost pure carnauba. The only thing, the binder that's keeping this together here is resin, and it's cracked a little bit, but if you want to, and I can even, I don't mind passing a can around if you'd like to smell it, and, just you can kind of see it if you like. So this is the hardest possible, and then what softens this here is the solvent, which in this case is mineral spirits.
Is that how that wax comes in clear?
Yes, it does. Did you guys want to see this thing? I don't know.
That comes in clear, and we put that on top of the
This is, yes. You can. The question is, can you put it on top of ton oil? Absolutely.
Stain for things like wood trim, window trim, door trim, what would you use?
Oil instead of wax. Where if you're doing say this window right behind you, where you have issues of maybe rain, you're going to be opening the window every day, your oil is going to be
Not
running.
the trim, not the window itself.
Molding.
Oh, moldings, yeah, you can use wax. Yeah, I just did this in my sister's house, in Atlanta. The Victorian Millennium. This case wax, I just took, she had all trim along, she had just put new carpet in. When the carpet was lifted up, she had all these little white marks and scratches and stuff, and they didn't want her to finish it. It actually had a very old polyurethane on it. It was horrible, very dark stain. And so I took a dark, I actually took the Georgian mahogany, which is the dark brown, steel wool, and just carefully covered the carpet and just spread it on, and it actually wound up being very matte and rich looking, and covered all the scratches. And you know, when that type of wood scratched, it was white underneath, so it covered it beautifully. I was surprised. She didn't like the smell, so either, but it evaporated. So, but if I was doing a windowsill, I would choose maybe an oil, given the issues of maybe rain, water. Question was about neutral and clear. On that color chart going around, in the case of LeBron, it's a little confusing. We have a neutral and a clear. Neutral is this, even though this is dirty, and this is zero pigment. There is no color in here. So if I had this piece of walnut and just like the color as is, I would just use the neutral because I wouldn't want to darken it in any way. So then the steel wool. Now when this dries, it will have no color change. We have a clear. The clear is, if you were to open the can, it's a bright yellow, but it actually comes on as a very slight amber tone, and it's ideal as a bit of warming if you had an old piece that needed a little bit of reviving. So the clear, in our case, is actually not clear. So when this dries, we'll buff it, and you'll see that actually there's no color in it.